So it requires mentorship. It requires guidance. And so to witness not only the success of my former students, but also my peers that were teachers with me, and we're all in different administrative roles, whether it's superintendencies, nonprofits, teacher leaders, and some have gone into the for-profit realm. And then thinking about my former administrative teams and where they are now, it's exciting thinking about where the parents were and the communities are now. And so I'll tell them, and I would tell any new educator to remain encouraged, to know that you are more than enough, to know that while society may not always appreciate you, those 25, 30 kids and more need you every day. And sometimes your smiling face may be the only smile they get to see throughout that week. So you make sure that you're making an impact not only in their lives, but remembering that you're powerful in your own life as well.
Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder, and you'll meet Chris Kent Phelps in just a bit. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you.
Chris, Michelle, greetings. Greetings back. How are you? Today is the day that our listeners get to meet a Dallas icon who's just, to me, like the most embodied example of what it means to understand the power of helping other people feel seen and understood and known. I'm so delighted that we get to share Nakia Douglas with our audience.
Agreed. I was delighted that you shared him with me because I had not met him, and he just sort of, I don't know, restored my faith in good men. Mm-hmm. He just has such a steady presence. Mm-hmm. It's really lovely.
Yes, the waters run very deep, very
I
deep.
used those words in one of my points.
Really?
Yes.
Well, we
so
can't
shall
be
I?
Surprised at this point if we're halfway sharing a brain.
True. At least there's a hole in between the two of us, we hope. So let me introduce our listeners to Nakia Douglas. I'm going to hit just a few points from his bio because you guys talk in such detail about his journey. So I'll save it for him to share. But I will say he's been in education for 29 years. He started in elementary education as a teacher in kinder, first, and fourth, became a principal. He's been an executive director in ISDs, universities, and nonprofits. One of his most notable accomplishments that he calls out and you guys talk about, and I have some questions about as well, is that he was the principal of the Barack Obama Male Leadership Academy in Dallas. He has received many recognitions for his work in education, including the KERA American Graduate Champion, SMU Luminary Award, Trailblazer Award, Dallas ISD Magnet Principal of the Year, and the very coveted honor of DCEO's Dallas 500, which is very difficult to make that list. So I was moved that he was on that list and appreciated getting to know him. So let's let our listeners do the same.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hello, Nakia.
Hello, how you doing?
My day is made being in your presence in just these few minutes. So whatever is coming through you, know that it is effective at fueling the people around you.
I thank you. I received that. It's a blessing to be here with you. More importantly, just be on your platform. Thank you for this time and allowing me to share a piece of my journey.
I was asking you if other people gave you feedback like I just did offline, which was that I was feeling a little zapped from speaking and that it being in your presence about 3 minutes totally recharged me. And I'm not exaggerating. And people don't always energize me because I'm a pretty big introvert.
Yes.
But I was asking you like if you'd heard that before.
Yes, ma'am. I've always been a smiler all my life. When I was a kid, the elders in the community, especially with my great grandma, they used to call me Smiley. And then when I went to the boys club, they used to call me Smiley Whiplash. And so smiling has always just been a part of who I am. And I just like to make sure that people know that they're seen, that they are respected, but more importantly, that they are important. And so sometimes just a smile and just letting them know that, hey, I'm here. Let's have our time together. We're engaged. Is all you need to do.
It's medicine.
Yes. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, it really is. It really feels like medicine. Okay, I love to start, and this feels extra interesting to me because more than one person that I love and respect has said to me that you are their favorite person on the planet.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, have you told your spouse? I mean, I feel like that bears a little digging. Like we should understand this. I'm totally kidding. But that's like the highest of high praise. So tell us your story and let's get to know how this magic came to be.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nakia Douglas. I'm a proud son of South Dallas, born and raised. My mom raised my sister and I there from kindergarten through 8th grade. I actually attended private school. We attended City Temple Junior Academy, which was a Seventh-day Adventist school, and we were Baptists. And so, that was its own interesting situation. But what I remember, sometimes she couldn't pay tuition. And so one of the prerequisites, for that support was that we attended events at the church on Saturdays. So that meant giving up football, soccer at times. And as a child, it bothered me because, I felt like that was my sacred time. But now looking back over the sacrifices that my mom made for us to be there, and then even on the weekends and in the evenings when I would talk with my friends that were in the public schools, I recognized they weren't having the same experiences. And at that time, I hadn't accepted my calling to be an educator. Matter of fact, for a while, I fought it for a long time. But it always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And getting into high school, I graduated from Lincoln High School, class of 93. We were under the leadership of Dr. Napoleon B. Lewis, another great leader that I was privileged to learn under and learn from and learn with, that just transformed our lives. He assembled a team of educators that not only saw us, but they respected us and appreciated us. And so it was powerful every day, in spite of our neighborhood, in spite of, our home environments, that you had this safe space. And it was my junior year in high school, Miss Glorious Dixon. We used to mentor the middle school kids over at Pearl C. Anderson. And I would go over and she told me one day, she said, "You're going to make a great teacher one day." I said, "No, I'm not." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because the kids too bad and y'all don't make enough money." And hindsight being 2020, I guess
She knew.
she knew and saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I'm also first gen. And so I went through high school. I was in the Upward Bound program. I was a neighborhood kid from Morelands Wide to the Boys Club, which is now the Oak Cliff Boys and Girls Club, to the YWCA, which is now the Cuban Heroes Center. You name it. If it was a community program, I was in it. I played soccer, Upward Bound, Allied Youth, VA Explorer program, University Outreach. My mom instilled within us, although she hadn't obtained her collegiate degrees, that was her expectation for my sister and I.
Wow.
And just her insistence, just her commitment to our education, more importantly, her willingness to find people in our lives and in our community and in our neighborhoods that could help us reach that path was just transformative. So that's a long way to say that I fought my calling. And when I left Livingstone, I'm going to say when I left Lincoln, 4 of us went to Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina together. Only 2 of us went to visit the school. And we fell in love with the school. They had offered us a presidential scholarship, and right before we were getting ready to come home, they said, "Well, we have another team that would like to meet you all." And so they offered us the opportunity for a full 4-year ride. We were like, "Okay, so we don't have to pay anything?"
Whoa.
And they were like, "Yes." I was like, "Okay, well, what's the catch?"
Yeah.
So, like, you have to go into education and teach for 3 years. just wanting to be away from Dallas,
Yeah.
in an area of the country that my mom, his mom didn't know anyone, was appealing to us. And now you're giving us a free education, and all I got to do is teach for 3 years. I went into the entire agreement that, okay, I'm gonna go through, finish my degree, teach for 3 years, and I'll be out. I'll be a child psychologist. I'll be a social worker. And of the four of us that majored in elementary education and all began our careers as teachers, I'm the only one still in education.
It got its hooks in you.
Yes, ma'am. And
What?
it's been a blessing. And so now, when I did accept my calling, once I recognized that I want to become a teacher, I always promised that I would offer a private school education at a public school cost. And so I'm a classically trained early childhood educator. I actually taught kindergarten. Um,
Oh, Smiley.
yes, ma'am.
Smiley teaching kindergarten. That had to be perfect.
It was beautiful. It was powerful. And while all my friends and peers were selecting secondary, they all asked, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Well, my mom ran a daycare when I was a child, and so if I'm going to do this, I want to do it at the highest level." I saw what my mom was able to do in the lives of kids, and I want to do the same thing. And while I had great experiences in secondary as a student, as a teacher, I knew my gifts were with the younger kids.
Yeah. And
Yes,
the
ma'am.
and the trajectory shift when you get them that young is just it's unmatched.
Yes, ma'am. You get to mold a blank slate.
Yeah.
You get to guide their love of education, their curiosity. You get to inspire them to dream. And you get to do it at all levels, but it's just something about building that foundation and watch them. We used to teach, I taught in North Carolina in Winston-Salem, and there we taught Denialian. And so there was a pride that those kids took around Christmas time when their letters start connecting. They were like, "Mr. Douglas, I'm writing cursive." I'm like, "Yes, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You sure are." But then I also took pride in them, learning phonics and learning how to read and just accelerating across all their curriculums. And it didn't hurt that I was the only male kindergarten teacher at that time in the district, and so we were able to get a lot of partnerships because people thought it was curious to see this black male kindergarten teacher, and so it led to a lot of opportunities and partnerships that benefited our kids and our campus.
Wow. I have so many follow-up questions. I'm gonna have hives by the end of this because I'm gonna feel like there are 700 conversations that didn't go tapped. So
Yes, ma'am.
we're gonna have to just do more of this, but I'll go towards some knowing that I'm never gonna be able to go toward all of them.
Yes, ma'am.
The first is about your mom and like her tenacity
Yes, ma'am.
to kind of instill in you all this commitment to education, this clarity, and then the move she made to make sure you got in those spaces where good education was happening and all the after school programs.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, I was looking at a quote this morning from Nikita Valeria that's shouting self care at people who really need community care is how we fail each other.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm like, oh, your mom knew that. Like, she knew that if she wove this community around you all, you would reach your full potential, it seems like, before it was cool to do that.
When I tell you, it's funny that you bring that up. Within our own family and then sometimes in members of our community, they used to accuse my mom of trying to treat us like we were white. And she would
Mm,
always tell us, I'm not trying to make them white. I'm trying to make you all the best that you can be,
mm,
regardless of your color. And she would always tell us, we may live in South Dallas, but South Dallas doesn't have to live in you. And so it was that understanding that there was a world beyond the neighborhood that we lived in. When I talked about going to the boys club and to the Y and all that, I used to ride the bus from South Dallas. So there were the recreation centers over there that I spent time with my friends there. But
uh-huh.
I found more joy in exploring the city. And so riding that 55 Lancaster downtown to the HL Greens and transferring to catch that 37 Lisbon to get to Oak Cliff was just like I got to explore every day. I got to see different personalities. I learned to watch my surroundings. But more importantly, I got to learn and witness life
Yeah.
beyond, Hatcher. Well, I'm sorry, it's Elsie Faye Higgins now. I was Hatcher in Oakland then, but beyond Elsie Faye Higgins and Malcolm X Boulevard. And that alone taught me and allowed me to continue to dream.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in where we lived at, a lot of us didn't own our homes. We were doing a lot of rent. And so at that time in my life, if you made it to Oak Cliff, you made it. You and your families were, you know, were moving up to the next level financially, and you had access to resources that we didn't have. And so I always sought for more because she instilled in us that more is possible if we're willing to work for it through the power of education.
Yeah, more is possible and you belong everywhere.
Yes,
Like
ma'am.
access and opportunity
Yes, ma'am.
and just a real clarity that because there's some systemic stuff that means it's not right next door to us doesn't mean
Right.
it's not yours to have and take and be shaped by. Like that's incredible. She sounds
Yes, ma'am.
incredible.
When I tell you that's the lifeline of who I am today and why I am this way, let alone my wife now for the last 24 years, that still allowed me to dream and still just find my path through this thing called life that we've shared together. It's been phenomenal. And now to have our own kids, that's been transformative too, because for so long as an educator, you know, you're taking care of everyone else's kids and, you know, you love on them and take care of them and advise the parents and then you send them home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a different thing when yours are there and they don't leave. They go to school and come home.
You're like, wait a minute. Who's coming to pick y'all up?
But it's the greatest joy because I didn't recognize it. That so many kids that are now adults and other educators and peers that my wife and I were either privileged to work with, support, guide, you know, their development, are now in the lives of our kids. And so
Wow.
there's never a worry of are they going to be taken care of. It's oh, I know such and such. They're going to look out for them. I know such and such. We brought them to our forever family. It'll be 10 years next May, 2016. And I was transitioning from being the principal at Barack Obama Merrill Leadership Academy to the executive director role. We started our adoption classes that September. They moved into our home December 2015. We finalized their adoption May of 2016. And I said that to say, you know, you're dealing with two educators. And so they came in on the 15th. On the 16th, they were in school because my wife and I still had to go to work. But they were at the Park Southwide pre-K program with the partnership with DISD. And it went so well that summer. We said, we'll let them spend the summer, let them learn how to swim. And one day my baby girl comes home. She was like, Titus this, Titus this. And I said, look here. I said, it's only three men you talk about in your life. And she looked at me like, what? She's 2 years old. I said, your brother, God, and your daddy. I don't know who this Titus is. I don't want to hear about him no more. And my son goes on to tell me, he said, no, Dad, brother Titus. I said, brother Titus? He said, from Obama. They knew the
Oh,
brothers from
no
Obama as their
way.
big brothers. Titus learned how to swim because he wanted to be a part of the rowing program that we had at the time. Fell in love with swimming, became a certified lifeguard, and started teaching our kids how to swim. So when I talk
Incredible.
about a series of blessings and coverings that have happened for our kids, it's powerful to witness that now.
It's like you got to see or you're getting to see in real time. I pour into these kids who then create safety and learning and great experiences for the next group of kids, which include my kids.
Yes, ma'am. That,
Amazing.
and that was always the goal. Uh, I used to have a joke as a principal. One day, you know, we're all gonna get old. We're gonna have to retire. We want to be able to look up and look at the doctor and the nurse and know that they were educated well, and you know who their teachers were and who their family is, and to know that we're gonna receive good quality care. And to see and experience that now, it's it's awesome. It's getting to witness a harvest that you planted so many years ago that you didn't expect to see in your lifetime come to fruition before your lifetime. And it's like I get to receive my roses all the time just by seeing their successes.
Wow. Do you think it's harder for educators present day to stay in touch with how much they're impacting kids and setting up these little ones for the future with just all of the noise? What are you thinking and seeing?
I'll say yes and no. For those, it is tough. Times are different than when I was teaching. But then there was that generation that was ahead of me that used to say, "Oh, it's not the same as it used to be. I'm praying for you." And so I have that same mentality. I'm praying for them, but I'm also excited for them because they're getting to usher in the next generation, the next wave of what education can and should be for our kids. And so it requires mentorship, it requires guidance. And so to witness not only the success of my former students, but also my peers that were teachers with me, and we're all in different administrative roles, whether it's superintendencies, nonprofits, teacher leaders, and some have gone into the for-profit realm. And then thinking about my former administrative teams and where they are now, it's exciting thinking about where the parents were and the communities are now. Um, and so I'll tell them, and I would tell any new educator to remain encouraged, to know that you are more than enough, to know that while society may not always appreciate you, those 25, 30 kids and more need you every day. And sometimes your smiling face may be the only smile they get to see throughout that week. So you make sure that you're making an impact not only in their lives, but remembering that you're powerful in your own life as well.
I mean, that is like salve for the soul for a lot of educators right now to hear you say that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And but it's necessary. My first day of teaching, I had 29 kids and no teacher assistant. And that first 5 minutes, one little girl threw up on herself, and another little girl wet herself. And all these kids are looking at me, and I said, okay, I need you to go into the restroom. I need you to go over here and wait till we get the nurse. I found another student to walk her down to the main office to go to the nurse. And then the other 26 kids were like, okay, what are we going to do? And we had class. Getting past that initial shock, that isn't in a textbook. Getting past those tears, getting past all the questions that the parents ask. Why are you a man teaching kindergarten? I've always kind of dealt with that initial pushback
Yeah.
in regards to the why. And once you share your story, once they see your purpose, and more importantly, understand your passion for educating their kids, it becomes a shared journey that we all enter into. So it's not just the lives of the kids that the educators are changing. You're changing the lives and the perceptions of parents because some of them may have had bad experiences. And there was nothing more powerful, whether I was teaching kinder in North Carolina or first and fourth grade back in Dallas, when parents would come up like, I just had to meet this Mr. Douglas because I know my son didn't like school, and now he wants to come every day. And I was like, I appreciate that. I was like, well, hopefully I'm doing something that's keeping him engaged because I love what I do. And he said, I could tell. He said, because now my child loves education. And so going back to those words that you tell the teachers, as long as you are passionate about what you're doing and what you're delivering, and you capture one child, you see that light come on for one child, you're making an impact because that one child is going to spark the interest of other children, of their families, and of communities that changes generations.
I mean, if that's not a reason to get out of bed every morning and share your magic and your wisdom, I don't know what is.
Yes, thank you.
So catch people up on because you've worn so many hats in terms of education and community leadership, and now you're in a role that's just helping our whole city envision what's possible. Catch people up on whatever of that you want to tap into.
Yes, ma'am. So for those that don't know, my journey has been an interesting one. I recently turned 50. So when I think back over the years, I was like, man, I guess I was a little busy. I started off as a kindergarten teacher in Winston-Salem, North Carolina after graduating from Livingstone College. Found my faith again, moved back home to take care of my dad. Taught first and fourth grade at Martin Luther King Learning Center back in my old neighborhood. Actually met my wife while I was there. Left and moved to Central Texas, began my administrative career in Georgetown and in Pflugerville. My father-in-law became ill and my wife wanted to move back home. So this time I came back to my old neighborhood of South Dallas as assistant principal at Charles Rice Learning Center. Was there for a year, and at that time the district used to have these green sheets, and I didn't know what the green sheet was. And if the green sheet came out and your name was on it, that meant that you were being moved to a new campus. And so I go to the meeting and I see the green sheet and it says, Nakia Douglas. It didn't have a school by it. And our area soup at that time was Miss Shirley Ison Newsom. And she had told us before the meeting started, she says, whoever I sit you next to, that's who you're going to be working with. So she had me sitting next to my sister Norma Martinez.
What?
And Norma Martinez was going to be the new principal of City Park Elementary School. So I'm sitting there like, what's messed up and did something wrong? And she sits and she's talking to Norma and she comes over to me and she says, you ready? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, why you look like that? I said, well, I just need to figure out what City Park is. And she was like, why are you asking me that? I said, well, you said whoever we sit next to, that's who we're going to be working with. Unbeknownst to me, at the ripe old age of 29, she appointed me as the principal of Maynard Jackson Vanguard School. Maynard Jackson was a 4-6 intermediate school. I was, at that time, I believe there may have been only 2 teachers that were younger than me on the entire staff.
Were you painting your beard gray at that point just to get some street cred?
I didn't. I actually had a little hair on my head at that time, so I was trying to hold on as much as possible. But it was interesting that first professional development with the teachers. There's always that mother or that father figure of the campus, and Miss Mitchell, Miss Gloria Mitchell, she pulls me to the side before I start the PD, and she says, Mr. Douglas. I said, yes. She said, good to meet you. And Miss Mitchell stands about 6'2", 6'3". So I'm looking up at her. I said, yes, ma'am. She says, how are we going to do this? I said, do what? She says, you're the same age as my kids. And I look at her, and as best I could smile and say, well, it's not a problem for me. If it's a problem for you, we can go discuss it in my office. And she just started laughing. And then she says, we just want to know that you believe in yourself the way we need to believe in you to educate our kids.
Wow.
And that began my journey and understanding that I was called to this season for that reason. I was following the exemplary principle, and I just told the principal that preceded me, I'm not going to mess it up.
Wow.
And I was a sponge. And being a sponge with my staff allowed them to see me transparently because I didn't go in thinking I knew everything. They were already doing phenomenal work, and it was just my privilege to serve them and serve with them to make sure we educated those kids. So for 2 years, we were elementary school, and Hurricane Katrina hit. They asked us to close down the elementary and open it up as a middle school. So I looped with the kids as their elementary to middle school principal. And it was powerful that 70% of the staff stayed with us for this work. They were willing to get the additional certifications, and those that chose to leave were able to do so. And then after a year, I guess we did pretty good. They asked me to go to the high school. So then I looped with the students as their elementary, middle, and high school principal.
They were probably looking around when they got to college, like, where is he?
Well, for some, that happened too. So I became the principal at A. Maceo Smith High School. I was there for 3 years. It was turnaround work. But what was beautiful about it, I knew the kids, knew the community. And it was just helping the staff, faculty and staff understand, our focus of what we had to do and how we had to do it to not only make sure that the kids were learning, but more importantly, that the school in its entirety was successful. 3 years, we were able to turn it around. And then I was charged with starting the first all-male leadership academy in the state of Texas, which is now known as the Barack Obama Male Leadership Academy. That was a labor of love. That journey was special. Didn't want to leave Maceo, and so I was told I got caught in a perfect storm of politics. But looking back on it, my wife and I had gone through some personal trials of dealing with infertility. And so it was a lot that I've been dealing with that season. And so for this new opportunity to come forward, I took it unrelentlessly with the purpose and belief that we're going to transform what public education looks like.
And you did. as a bystander, and you did.
Yes, ma'am. It's
Keep going.
well, thank you. But I always tell that story because what we were known for at Obama, we were doing my last 2.5 years at A. Maceo Smith. We actually had single gender classes in English language arts and math, and it went so well the first year. The students and the parents asked that it loop, and so we did it from 9th, 10th, and I left those kids junior year, but they maintained it as much as they could through graduation. And so being given an opportunity to do it solely for boys and create something that I would have wanted for myself, but more importantly, I wanted for my future sons that were going to walk through those doors, just led to an even higher intensity of what education could be, but more importantly, a greater insistence that we created. And so, with that faculty and staff and community and support of the board, support of Miss Newsom, because she gave me that was the last principalship that I had, and she actually appointed me to that role. So I guess she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time. And, there's been a couple times I asked her, like, what did you see? I know I was kind of young. And she told me, she said, that school, initially, the goal and the plan was for me to always be a part of it in some way. And so to be entrusted with that in the lives of our young men, and it allowed me to create a space that I wanted to have. We got to be fathers to those young men and mothers and additional family members. And that was at all my campuses, but even more so there because it was personal. And I would tell all the staff, parents, anybody that came through those doors, if you have fatherhood wounds that you're dealing with, this is a space of healing for you because it's going to come up and it's going to come out and we're going to walk through it together. And so they saw me go through my own fatherhood wounds and the healing that was allowed to take place. And it was powerful. And the goal was develop young men into impactful leaders through development of their intellectual, moral, physical, and social skills for the global society tomorrow. Beyond that, building better husbands, fathers, and leaders for our families and community. There are PhDs, optometrists, attorneys, teachers of the year, administrators, nonprofit, for-profit, you name it, those young men are doing it. And even in this generation now, the schools that these young men are not only applying to, but being accepted to, and the amount of scholarships that they're receiving is something that we expected to build. We wanted to build a school that was going to live and exist beyond our lifetimes. And that's exactly what it is.
Hi, I'm Katie Worden, District Partnership Lead for TackieBox, an elementary program that pairs innovative content with a tactile tool and daily practice to help kids self-monitor their words, actions, and relationships. It's proven to reduce behavior incidents by 66%. Students build self-awareness, self-regulation, and real connection. And it's a light lift for teachers with a profound impact on well-being. Visit tackiebox.com to bring it to your campus.
It's so inspiring because it's the opposite of getting like in that quicksand of it's always been done this way.
Right.
It was like you and the people around you were able to release yourself from that and envision and execute. And that just feels so like, oh my gosh, yes, more of that. There's so many brilliant people in education. How do we make way for them to feel like they can execute on their vision?
We make way by still allowing them to dream, to be a part of the creation of the process. And so when we think back as minutely to the teachers, allow them to have an active part in the development of the lessons that they're going to deliver. Because if it's been curated for you and you didn't have to study or you didn't have to bring in these other resources, you don't own it. And so from Maynard Jackson to Maynard Jackson Middle to Maceo and Obama, the community was always a part of owning the creation and design of those campuses. The teachers were always a part of the creation and design of their individual lessons. So the greatest beneficiaries at all times were the kids and the community. And so they didn't walk into a classroom where you didn't have a teacher that didn't believe in them, because they owned that lesson and they were very intentional and purposeful in regards to the delivery of that lesson to ensure that their kids could master those lessons. When I went to Maceo, a lot of the teachers, they knew my background, and they said, "You ever worked in a high school?" I said, "No, you're right, I haven't." I said, "But I went to high school." And they started laughing. They were like, "So how are you going to help us?" I said, "From a content perspective, you're right. I can't help you all in all content, but I can put you around leaders throughout our district and around our country that are." I said, "But I do know pedagogy. I do know classroom management." So, and I was explaining, I said, "I have a little touch of undiagnosed ADHD, and I walk a lot." I said, "So when I walk in your classrooms, I won't be looking to come in and disturb you. I'm looking for that kid that's sitting in the class, that's looking like they're sleepy and or not paying attention, and I want them to be able to teach me what you've taught them. And if they can do that, that's a sign of your mastery."
Wow.
And the teacher was like, "Wow." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Because I'm holding you accountable to teaching them, but I'm also holding them accountable to learn what you're teaching."
Yeah.
And so with that shared understanding of the process, it became magical.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And so at Obama, it was the same way. Just took that same mentality, and at every campus also would challenge the staff. If you have school-age kids that could attend our school and they don't, what do we need to do personally and collectively as a staff to make sure that we create a school that you would want to have your kids educated here? Because if it's good enough for you to earn a paycheck here, it should be good enough for you to educate your kids here. And
That highest
just
level.
the psychology behind the work and pulling people's heartstrings, but more importantly, igniting that fire in them for that creativity and innovation to best serve those that we were privileged to lead every day.
And there's an undercurrent of deep respect for their professionalism and what you're talking about, which
Yes,
is
ma'am.
always motivating.
Yes, ma'am. I always said, I would always have the best faculty and staff this side of heaven at every campus, and I meant it because if they knew that I believed in them, they would learn. Even if they didn't believe in themselves, they start to. And you're watching your peers improve their practices. It's going to rub off. So I would always say, even our teachers that may be the newest and or may not always have the best skill sets, could still run circles around anybody else. And when you hear that enough, you start believing it.
Yeah.
And they were doing it, and it was evident by the outcomes that our kids were having at each school.
Wow.
So I was at Obama for 6 years. Beautiful. Beautiful opportunity. All my opportunities have been beautiful, and I've loved them all for different reasons. But that one was personal because, again, I was dealing with my own fatherhood challenges and issues that I'd faced in the past and working through them. And then I became a father. So that took a whole new paradigm. And as I became a father, my wife and I, brought in Zaya and Zamaya to our families. I was transitioned to a new role as the executive director of the feeder pattern. And I won't say I was reluctant to accept the position, but I was real cautious because those were my peers that I had grown through the ranks with. And it took just one of them to remind me, we were like, "We saw you as an elementary principal." And they used to call me baby brother because I was the youngest principal in the district. And they were like, "We saw you become an elementary principal, then you did middle school, you did high school, then you did the magnet." Like, eventually he gonna be our boss. And so they accepted it before I did.
We called it a while back.
And that was powerful. For a year and a half, working with that South Oak Cliff feeder pattern and pouring into those principles because, as a leader, it's a lonely job at times. And so you don't always have those safe spaces. I wanted to create a safe space for them where they could talk through and walk through the challenges that they were facing, but more importantly, learn to own their roles. Any principal will tell you there's those calls when the superintendent's coming to visit. The eagle has landed, a wild dog is in the yard, and things of that nature. And having known that, but I never practiced it, but I knew that it happened. I would tell my principal, I said, if you have to make a call that there's a wild dog in the yard or the eagle has landed for your staff to start teaching and educating your kids better, that means I run your school and not you. And so the psychology of understanding that, no, you were called to this role. You are in this role for a reason. I trust you, but I also have expectations of you to not only lead yourself but to lead them. You started seeing that shift and the understanding. And I was still, ADHD. I would only go to my district office on Fridays when we had our our executive directors meetings. But during the week, I was at the schools, and so I would
Yeah.
visit 2 to 3 schools a day. It was funny to them that I would eat in the cafeteria, and one of them asked me, said, "Why do you do that?" I said, "Well, as a campus principal, I always did that because I could find out everything that was going on in the school, good, bad, or indifferent." I said, "But
Yeah.
it also let me know about the diet and the food that our kids were taking in each day.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't right, I could go in and talk to the cafeteria manager, like, hey, at that time we were still cooking in the cafeteria, too much salt, you got to cut down on the salt." And it was a joy because, those at my schools when I was a principal and then when I became an ED, those cafeteria managers look forward. Is he on the campus? Tell him I got to play for him. And I'd go down there and
He's
get a
going to
plate.
love this mac and cheese today.
But everyone on the staff knew that they were important. They knew that they were seen. I'm going down the hallways. The floors are all glossy. Where your facility manager? Man, you got these floors looking good, man. Y'all doing it.
Yeah.
And
Because it
so,
takes every piece of that. It's an orchestra.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And the moment you neglect and or choose to not recognize others is when you start seeing those cracks that fall through, and kids ultimately end up falling through those cracks.
Yeah.
Was in that role for a year and a half. Then I transitioned to University of North Texas at Dallas, became the executive director of the TRIO and pre-collegiate programs department. Um, I'm a product of TRIO, and so that one was, all my jobs have been personal, but that one was personal as well because Upward Bound is what helped me see and envision my life and my potential as a collegiate student, ultimately a college graduate. And so I was proud to start those programs there at UNT Dallas. We start off with Upward Bound and McNair Scholars. We added the Community Youth Development Grant, which is another big grant from the state of Texas. And now there's Student Support Services, and they're still expanding. So I started off as a team of one, and now full time when they have all the summer staff, I think it's over 35 people that are working there. So showing people how to connect those dots to build a village around their schools, around their communities. The greatest beneficiaries will always be the students,
Yeah.
but those secondary beneficiaries are those campuses, those families, and those communities.
And the
And
educators.
yes, ma'am.
They're
Exactly.
freed up to do their work. Yeah.
And when you're freed up to do your work, you get to dream again. It can
Yeah.
become magical for you. And you know that you're not in this journey alone because we can do more together than we can apart.
Mm. Mm.
The spiritual side of me is always going to bring back my prior experiences. Before opening up Obama, I had a year to study best practices. I went everywhere from St. Mark's, Jesuits, Cistercian, Bishop Dunn, Episcopal School of Dallas, St. Philip's, Kip Academy, Townview, Irma Rangel, Fort Worth Young Women's Leadership Academy, traveled to Urban Prep in Chicago, Blueford, Drew, Jemison STEM Academy in Baltimore, and then also traveled to Beijing and Chongqing, China. I've actually been doing the same things. I've been going to visit the top public, private, and charter schools to learn and see what their best practices are. I'll actually do some international travel in the fall to visit and look at their schools, actually in South Africa, to learn and see what these best practices are and bring those back to our community so that we can re-envision and create the ultimate schools for our kids.
That cross pollinating, like there's just so much energy in that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What have you learned that surprised you, and which voices do you feel like are most informing you as you shape what's coming?
Quite naturally, first and foremost, kids. I listen to my own kids. They're at one of the better middle schools in DISD, but there are still gaps. And so there's the academic, social, emotional, and professional capital that my wife and I have that, all kids aren't privy to. And so whether it's my wife on the PTA or myself up at different events, we share with the other parents. And I didn't recognize it until, earlier last year. that a lot of the programs and things we were doing, not only at the school but outside the school, a lot of our friends and or our kids' friends started doing the same thing. And my wife mentioned, she said, "You know, is everybody trying to do what we're doing?" I was like, "You know what? We're gonna keep on sharing, knowing that best practices or partnerships that could benefit a school or benefit a community, connecting those dots with them."
And it
Uh,
ripples so organically, it sounds like, especially when Smiley's in the house. Becau because you're infectious. So people are like, "I want what he's having."
and the other part of what you're talking about is going to visit schools. I walk with the principals, and sometimes superintendents, and visit teachers' classrooms, and they're like, this is our guest and things of that nature, and I just let them talk. And for some, you still see that fire and that spark, and some you can tell it's those days that they're like, Lord, if another parent come in this building, I'm just gonna call it quits. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it's just reminding them, hey, you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
You got to go through this season to enjoy the next season.
Yeah.
This is making you better as a leader, and you learn to, as Coach Carol Lawson says from Duke, you learn to handle hard better. And in recognizing that, and sometimes just dropping a little wisdom to them, you get to see, oh man, had nobody said that to me before. Thank you. Or asking them how they're doing, and I'm not asking about your school. I'm asking about you. Oh, how'd you know to ask me that? I could just see something in your eyes. But it's the small things that lead to the big things. And so when they're heard, when they're seen, it can reignite a fire. It can help them deal with a challenging situation. And as I explained, so I was like, if I had a magic wand, I would do it. I said, but I'm not, because you have to have this moment to learn, because it's preparing you to handle even tougher situations going forward. And I tell them, I said, I'm actually excited that you're going through it. And they were like, what you mean? I was like, because through every test, after every test, there's a testimony. Each time it rains, the sun is going to come out. So you know that there's a better tomorrow after this situation. You just have to be willing to persist through it, and work your way through it and create a solution that is beneficial for all involved.
Can we tap into that wisdom and apply it to the bigger picture of what's happening in the country related to education? Because of course, there's a lot of destruction happening,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
that is important to acknowledge and pay attention to and speak into. And if I'm hearing you right, you're as interested in what's trying to be born and what our role is in helping something be born from this time that we can all be proud of.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
do you balance all of that? How do you figure out what's yours to do?
The balance is done prayerfully, intentionally, and purposely. Prayerfully from the perspective that, there are a lot of emotions that are tied into it, because you have the right wing versus the left wing. And there's no compromise where they're meeting in the middle anymore, where we've lived through times where that was expected, that both sides came together intentionally, with the conversations and sense making in regards to how the work is being done. And even though it's coming down, are we going to have that woe is me, or are we going to create solutions and find a way to navigate the systems? And sometimes that's a reminder that we've always had to navigate systems. We've always had to go against the trend, because for me as an African American, that's been my lived experience. Whether it was a Democrat in office or whether it was a Republican in office, a lot of times the policies, created more barriers versus opportunities.
Yeah.
And so it just became second nature. And then thinking back to how I was raised, we would always joke that, my mama would rob Peter to pay Paul, to pay bills and make sure we had what we needed to get to school and things of that nature. You learn how to be creative in the midst of adversity. We didn't cry, when we had issues. In high school, I have one of my best friends that my mom didn't know until after we graduated. From my freshman year up until my junior year, I would eat, get dressed at the house and everything. And, she bought me the clothes that she could buy me. When I was in private school, it was set, the budget and all that. But when you get to high school, you want to dress nice. Well, she was limited in her budget. And so I would literally go down to my friend's Broderick house and his mom would let me in. I get a little bit more to eat and I could pick, throughout the clothes that he and his brother had. And lo and behold, my junior year, I was 5'4" up until my senior year. My senior year, I hit a little growth spurt and I jumped up to 5'9". And I get down there and Miss Phillips like, hey, babe. I like, hey, she said, come on in. And she says, I don't think we can help you no more. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, do you realize how tall you got this summer? And so I couldn't hide it. And the few times I would still borrow a shirt, I used to have to roll the sleeves up. But for the longest, that was just my journey with my friends that knew me.
Yeah.
It wasn't, they were looking down on me or anything of that nature. No, the kid just trying to get it. And, this is how he helps.
Yeah.
And how I would help them if you needed, homework, help on your homework, it was a bartering system. And so we were community care, and we were robbing Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. What I didn't have, you had, you fill that gap. What you didn't have, I had, we fill that gap. And those have been lifelong relationships.
I grow up 5 inches in a month.
Messed it up, grew, and they were like, what happened? And I was still I'm still small compared to all my other peers, but they were like, no, we can't help you no more. So.
That is genuinely hilarious.
Yes, ma'am. Life has been beautiful. It's created a lot of opportunities, and so back to your question in regards to, how do you navigate it? You remain prayerful, intentional, and purposeful. God is always going to take care of you, and I've never made any decision in regards to my professional career that didn't tie directly to my faith and who I am as a person. And from the perspective of Joseph, sometimes you're going to get called into foreign lands and you may not understand it. And those around you may not understand it. But if you're called to be a light in the midst of a dark situation and or a daunting situation, you be that light and be unapologetic about your light. And so that's why I tell people to continue to dream, to continue to grow, to continue to just believe and follow your purpose and your passion, because it's always going to make a way. And when, what you're called to do, you won't fail.
Be unapologetic about your light is a bigger sentence than to just move past, because I think there's something in the water right now that that is dimming people, and it's making people feel almost guilty to be in light or be in joy, be in dreaming or hope, because there are so many heavy things, and yet that's the only thing that's going to make this a midwifing of something beautiful, as opposed to the beginning of the end, as some people are narrating it. Is each of us standing in our own light.
Correct. And when you're able to do that, you can see and understand the good and the bad, the good within the bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not denial. It's not like Pollyanna. Yeah.
It is acceptance that was a part of my journey, but it's not defining my journey. So who am I becoming in the midst of this journey? And I'm still ever evolving as an individual, as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a leader. And it's beautiful watching during this season, this through sense making, through conversations like this and with others, that we all want the best. We just maybe approach it differently and or have a different perspective of how to get there. But when you can bring people together and you can bridge those gaps, sometimes being that light means that you're becoming a bridge between different communities and different thought patterns and thought processes. And that's a unique skill set. It is one that I didn't know that I was privileged, to have innately. But it's been good because people understand that we want the best for our kids.
Yeah.
And when we take care of the next generation, they're going to take care of us. I know we're getting close to the end of our time. My pressure was up to here, and I had a 10 o'clock doctor's appointment. So I get to the doctor's appointment early, almost about 30 minutes early. I was like, I got to get my pressure down, because if not, I know they're going to try to put me on medicine. I'm not going on no medicine. I'm sitting there calming myself down, playing soft music. I'm trying everything. And all of a sudden I see the lead nurse come out and she's calling back patients. And I look and I was like, she looks so familiar.
No.
And I look away. She comes out for the second patient. And I'm looking at her again. I'm like, man, she gonna think I'm staring at her. I'm like, but I know her from somewhere. Third person, she comes out and asks for her. She says, Mr. Douglas? I said, yes. She said, Mr. Nakia Douglas? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, I am because of you. And I said, ma'am, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to you. I know it like I was staring at you. I said, I said, because I know you from somewhere. And she goes on to say, Maynard Jackson Middle. As soon as she said Maynard Jackson Middle, I was like, Alondria. Alondria Harvey was one of my students from Maynard Jackson to Maynard Jackson Middle to A. Maceo Smith. And I used to have a joke with the kids. I would tell the girls, because I'd had them since elementary. I know y'all love math and science. Y'all love bugs and stuff. Don't you get over there to that middle school or to the high school and act like you don't like math and science anymore. And I would also tell the boys, I know you love going to the library, coloring books, video games. Don't you get around those girls and act like you don't love these things. And she said, we used to laugh about it. She said, but I love science. And I always wanted to become a nurse. And she's the nurse at my doctor's office.
Holy cow. What was the phrase she said to you? I am
because of you.
I am because of you.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
happened to your pressure when you realized who that was?
It just dropped and I just started smiling. And
Yeah.
when I go back, I was already kind of comfortable with my doctor because, again, that village, he was 4 years ahead of me at City Temple. And so we get to talking. He was like, City Temple, what you know about City? I said, I went to school there. And he was like, well, you little Douglas. And he was like, you were so small.
Gosh.
And now I'm taller than him.
That'll show him.
But yeah, like you said, my pressure went down and I just couldn't stop smiling because it went back to that joke. One day we're going to get old. We're going to have to retire. And we want to know that there are doctors and nurses that can take care of us. Once I saw that young lady, my pressure went down because I knew the teachers she had been educated by. I knew what type of young lady and her character. And it just gave me a peace and just that understanding and that assurance from God that I was in the season I was called to be in.
That's an amazing story. And it doesn't surprise me at all that that happens to you on a recurring basis. And is your mom still living?
My mom is still living and still works at Lincoln. I graduated in May of 93. Dr. Napoleon B. Lewis saw something not only in me as a student, but also in my mom and how she not only brought us together, but brought other moms together. He hired her and she still works at Lincoln to this day. She just turned 80.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
What does she say to you about what you've done in education? What's her take on her boy?
She tells me she's just proud and, it makes her heart feel good when she's somewhere, either at the school or out in the community and they be like, Douglas, do you know Nakia Douglas? And she would say, she just starts smiling. That's my son.
I made Nakia Douglas. He is because I am.
Right. I am because of her.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the greatest joy because, this is my gift. I get to give her roses every day in regards to, I appreciate everything you did for me. I appreciate and recognize all the sacrifices that you made for my sister and I. And this is the best way that I can pay you back by being the example of what you created, what you prayed for, what you expected of me and my sister. And that's the joy. So outside of
Yeah.
seeing her smile, watching my wife and kids smile and, just the community. And when you mentioned about some of the kids at college, a couple of the kids from the neighborhood from Obama and also from Maceo end up enrolling over at UNT Dallas. So I got to see them there too.
They're probably like, what is happening? Is this an avatar?
It literally, you just brought up another point. From Maynard Jackson to Maynard Jackson Middle to Maceo Smith, Barack Obama to UNT Dallas for 19 years. I was in the same zip code, 75216 and 75241.
Yeah.
I couldn't have scripted that. You know, that wasn't my plan. That was a plan beyond me.
Incredible.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for this time. I feel so inspired by you and so grateful to you for what you're doing. And I hope everyone listening is both inspired by your content, but maybe even more so by your spirit, because there's something in you that I think all of us can actively choose to sort of step into in terms of your relationship to challenges, your relationship to hope, your relationship to dreaming. That's accessible to every single one of us that's listening, and I hope that's a big takeaway. I hope everybody got an infusion.
Thank you.
I would never bet against you. I can tell you that. And I will forever be cheering for you, and just know that we're here cheering for you. And if it ever serves you to come back and catch us up, it's an open invitation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I will hold you to that.
Okay. Count
Yes,
on
ma'am.
it. Take care.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's the one and only Nakia Douglas.
Remarkable.
As I was coming up in Dallas in the nonprofit world, he was genuinely revered, and having a more kind of close up experience of him, I really see why. And I also see that he hasn't personalized that in a gross way like a lot of people do. Like, he just seems to be someone who understands that something is flowing through him, and that his capacity to be present with someone, to have them feel seen, heard, known, understood, to hold a vision for what's possible for them, even if they haven't yet, like all of that alchemy, to me, that is leadership. And so many people don't get that. And I just feel like he has it so organically, so completely.
Yes, for sure. He struck me as simplistically complex, which is, I love those words. Someone once used them to describe somebody to me, and that's what I kept thinking when I was listening to him.
Yeah.
Because he leans on such simple truths, just talking about his goal being to make people feel seen and valued. Like, that's such a simple truth, but there's so much depth behind it. Like, that I made the note, he clearly wades in deep waters. And it struck me that he mentioned in passing that he lost his faith and refound his faith as he was telling you his story. And I wanted to know more about that, because it struck me that I wonder if that depth was there prior to him refinding his faith. But they seem to be linked to me.
Interesting. Yeah, that would be a really good follow-up conversation to know more about, like, what does he look like feeling lost? Because he's so grounded and so present. It's hard for me to picture,
To imagine it.
like, so I'm like, did the outside world know that at all, or was it more of just internally he had a crisis and kind of then found his footing again? I don't know. Like, you're making me want to ask a lot more questions.
Should have been whispering in your ear.
I need to Cyrano.
Yes,
these
I love
interviews.
that. I also felt like just listening to him made me want to write a country song, because he speaks in like poetry. He said, after every test, there is testimony. Each time it rains, the sun is going to come out. There's a better tomorrow. Like, come on, these are great lyrics.
The singer-songwriter in you needs a platform. Let her come out. Let her come
I'm
out.
working on it. Maybe Nakia wants to co-write with me.
Yeah, you guys could co-write. I love that idea. I think you would too. So good. Another thing that struck me is
how often he, in the short time we were together, told stories about people who saw something in him before he saw it. And he just has a very coherent narrative about the people who shaped him, starting with his mom. Yeah. It made me think, like, who in the world has a coherent narrative about the people and the experiences that shaped them, and who doesn't? Even though those experiences exist, they just don't have a coherent narrative about it yet. And what difference does that make in how they show up in the world or how they feel in the world?
That would
Just
be a
such
fun
a nerdy thing
exercise.
to
Yeah,
add
it would
to-
be a fun exercise to go back and write your narrative from that
Yeah.
lens, actually.
Yeah.
I might do that.
Well, in my therapy days, one of the things that we looked for is helping people develop a coherent narrative around whatever had happened to them, because the meaning making, the sense making gives you a lot of it like buoys you above the trauma sometimes, just being able to understand your notion of what happened and how it affected you and how it changed your view of yourself or the world, your relationships. And then you can kind of keep building the narrative in a way that serves you and kind of like leans toward your preferred future. But he really exemplifies someone who has thought about it and understands all of these people that poured into him, and then understands the assignment. Now I do it all day long, every day.
2 thoughts on that. One, I really wish you would have been my therapist, because I've had a lot of therapy and no one's ever mentioned that idea to me. And then,
You have way more access to me as your friend.
that's true.
Much better than 50 minutes a week.
I know. And at the end of the 50, you're always just not ready for it to be over. But the second thought was, to me, I'm going to use your word embodied. He is embodied definition of pronoia.
Oh, interesting.
The good things conspiring for the world, because for all those reasons. Like, I just felt like as he was telling his story and he kept, talking about this job was a blessing in this season of life. And it just seemed like doors kept opening for him because he is just a good human with a smile on his face and a pure, clear heart.
Yeah. Yeah. There goes that country song. It's writing itself.
Should we call it Smiley Whiplash?
Oh, I love it.
I wanted to know about
Smiley.
that. Why the whiplash? Didn't he say that?
See,
Smiley Whiplash.
I don't remember that whiplash part. You really do need to be listening in, and I'll have like a little earpiece, and you can be like a producer in the background going, Kinder, don't miss this. Don't miss this, Kinder.
Okay, I want to share this one if you don't mind. I felt like the biggest lesson I learned from him was to keep dreaming. And I hope people who are listening who find themselves disillusioned by the state of education and the world heard that. I actually went and counted the number of times he talked about dreaming. 9 different times he talked about that. And I just found that really, really interesting. And it also made me feel like if your faith is real, and his clearly is, mine is to me, you have to keep dreaming. You have to. Like, that's part of having faith. And he does that so well. And I just felt like when I watched it, I was kind of in a place where I wasn't dreaming. And I just it gave me a kick in the pants.
Interesting. Oh, I love it. I think he will be really genuinely moved by that.
Well,
What a
I
gift.
offer him gratitude because it was really helpful, and I'm going to remember that.
Okay, how about the nurse story?
Oh, yes. Well, and even just the story and also his kind of definition of community is very different than how community exists in my life. And I'm aware of it and grateful for it. But just that whole concept of knowing who educated someone and just all of that, like it runs deep.
Yes, yes. And it's like a web that is a safety net for our nervous system. Because there's only so much we can do within. It's the between and within that creates that regulated nervous system. And the fact that he had a real-time experience where he was like feeling his blood pressure rising, trying desperately to lower it. Out comes this former student. He had a neurobiological response instantly by feeling seen, known, appreciated. And what were her words to him?
I am because of you.
I am because of you.
Yeah.
And then in real time had that blood pressure drop, calm down, I'm in my body again, I'm good. And then it made me think about the fact that all day long, every day, our listeners are interacting with that young nurse or some version of her. And many of them don't get that bump in moment years, decades later. But even just to connect with the fact that you are creating those metaphorical bump in moments in a way that you could never even count. It's just extraordinary. When I think about what I do all day, it's just like nothing touches the reach and the power that educators have.
100%. It was interesting because I listened to the interview on Sunday after having gone to my hometown for the weekend. And I went to a barbecue of people that I went to school with. So some of the people there I hadn't seen in 30-something years.
Oh my gosh.
And it was interesting to me to watch how they all interacted. Like they hadn't, this particular group of people had never left our hometown. So they had the same kind of experience with community where, you know, my childhood friends were now the teachers and, you know, my brother's the mortgage guy and the pizza restaurant guy, and they all know each other and hang out with each other. But there were also two people there that when they were introducing me to their kids, they said, she's Cindy Kent's daughter, Miss Kent's daughter. And then all this conversation broke out about my mother and how two different people said, she saved my life. She saved my life. And this one woman described how my mom would let her come into her art classroom when she was in high school. And she said she never tried to lecture me or talk to me. She just handed me art supplies and turned on good music and just sat in the room with me. Makes me tear up.
Yeah, it makes me tear up.
And Amy just kept saying, she saved my life. She saved my life. I wouldn't be here without her. And she was standing there telling her daughter that. It was just so beautiful. But and then I watched the interview when I got back, and there were so many connections. And I echo what you said, that educators are just doing this just all day, every day.
They're casting futures. They're first responders. Like, it's just incredible. Has your mom heard that story?
I told her when I got
What was
back.
her reaction to it?
You know, honestly, she gets that all the time. Everywhere she goes. Everywhere she goes.
She already knows her celebrity status.
She does. We were joking because a few summers ago we were out on the lake, and I think my dad was like driving the boat with the lights off or something. He was breaking the law basically. And this, you know, police boat came up and started to give a ticket. And then they saw my mom on the boat like, wait, that's Miss Kent's boat? Oh, we're not going to give you a ticket. And they just let us go.
No, I love that so
Isn't that
much.
fun? But I thought it was interesting too that Nakia was describing that type of community in the city. Like that it exists in the city too.
Yeah. It's not exclusive to smaller rural communities.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if, you know, the cops let you go, but
We'll have to ask him if he's ever been pulled over by a former student
let's do.
and what happened. Oh, What's on your list besides what we've already talked about?
Let's see. Well, his message to educators really moved me in a few ways. So I'll start with the part that hurt my heart and end on a positive note. But he made the comment that his message was for them to remain encouraged, even when society doesn't appreciate you. And I just thought about, like, how can we talk about what we just talked about, the impact of educators, and then society not appreciate them? It made me sad.
It's the upside down world.
It really, yeah, it was hard to hear that. Appreciated his encouragement to them for sure, but just that piece of it, it was kind of piercing for me.
Yeah.
But I did love his excitement around educators today getting to usher in future generations, but also the next wave of what education looks like. That made me hopeful. So he kind of double whammied me. He hurt my heart and then he gave me hope all in one sentence. See, country song.
If there's not a country song on the other side of this, I'm going to be so sad. Near the end of the conversation, when Nakia started talking about being unapologetic about your light, that just felt like such a timely and potent invitation to me.
It did, and it made me think of Eric Chandler, who was one of our first podcast guests, and that was when we were still doing the "What would you write on a stone?" That's going to be uncovered 500 years from now. And Eric Chandler said, "I tried to be the light."
Yeah.
So this podcast just really opens my eyes to that undercurrent that I think that's what all educators are working to do.
Yeah. And something about the assumption that there is light in you, in his words, like there is light in you, and there's all sorts of things that can kind of mute that. But I think our job is, the way I think about it is, how do I clear my vessel? My work is to clear the vessel. So, that's how I eat, how I exercise, who I spend time with, what I listen or watch or read. All those things clear my vessel so that light can come through me. And then, of course, I get the benefit of that light flowing through me too. It's not there's no martyrdom to it. But the way he talked about it to me felt like it's there. It's there. When it's turned up to full wattage, when it's turned down, when you need to change the bulb, like but don't be hiding it, like lean all the way into sharing it, because the world needs your light right now, bigly.
I think that could be a pop anthem.
We're going to write several songs.
That was really well said.
It felt like hope. It felt like a tangible way to live in tricky times, experiencing your connection to hope as a responsibility. That's how I felt his words.
I also thought it was interesting that he views his life and his work kind of as an extension of his mother's legacy. That's what I heard anyway, as he was talking about her and her Herculean effort to make him into the person he is.
Yeah. Oh. And the fact that she's doing what she's doing still, like, I want to know her. Maybe we need to get her on here.
Let's have her on.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Would that be?
Yes. I'm going to talk to Nakia and see if she would be open to it. Maybe they could come on together even.
I love that idea.
Yeah, she sounds incredible.
I love that idea. I loved how he talked about the joy he took from exploring other neighborhoods as a kid. Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah. He kind of came into the world simply complex, or what was the word?
Simplistically complex.
Simplistically complex, yeah.
Because most kids would feel like they're missing out on time with their friends, but he clearly didn't. He said he found more joy in the exploration and going to see other things than he did in just that normal existence.
Love it. What about you? Anything else? I think I got my list. Wait, here's some more.
Well, I had a question for you, actually, because you guys talked about his work at the Barack Obama Male Leadership Academy and how transformational it was. I think the specific, you referenced that he achieved his goal of transforming what public education looks like during his stint there. And I wanted to know more about that. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the talk of the town when he was leading there. And it was back when Dallas ISD was struggling far more than it is now. Now there's so many examples of great things happening in DISD. But back then, this notion that an academy could rise up and create the conditions for these young men to just blossom into the future leaders that we need. And it was just, he kind of broke all the rules in the name of what's right and good for kids. And it worked quickly and well. And from the outside looking in, at least, we were all just like, man, we're so proud that this is in our city.
And I wonder what those things were that he did to make it so successful. I kind of pulled out some different things from the story of just his career that to me felt like maybe the secret behind his success. And so tell me if you think that this applied there. It seems that he always has kids at the center, number one, that community focus and really thinking about, others, not just the people inside the school, trusted and empowered his staff, like that story about Miss Mitchell and, coming over to say, and his belief in himself. Like that was one thing that really stuck out to me from his story. He believes in himself and he believes in others.
Yeah. What a good list.
Yeah. And I feel like all of those seem to stem from his mama, his wife, and his faith.
I love that. The only other one I would add to your great list is I think he understands, let me see how to best say this. Like, I feel like he understands how to name and hold wounds. Like he talked about some of the students having a father wound that mimicked his, and he understands how to not deny those things, but then to also not lower expectations or the dream based on the challenges. I feel like he just is like, these things that happen to all of us, any of us, that creates texture, momentum, capacity, all the things that then, you move into whatever you're supposed to be doing in the world. It's not an either or.
Maybe I need to have a therapy session with Nakia.
You definitely. We all do. We all do. I felt like before we even got into the conversation, I felt like an infusion from him. And I think it's just because he's true. He's so true.
And steady.
True and steady.
Yeah.
True and steady, Smiley.
Well, and for anyone listening who is listening and didn't watch, he never stopped smiling during the whole entire interview.
If we had him and Angie in a room together, we'd probably have to wear sunglasses.
I wonder if they work together.
I'm sure they know each other. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I loved him.
Same. Thank you to Nakia for being such an example of keeping the dreaming going, understanding the importance of community care, like showing what it looks like to take all of those investments that people have made in any of us and then paying it forward and in just small and big ways. I see you. I'm smiling at you. I'm totally present. I'm making, I'm making a genuine connection to, I'm building a whole new education model that's going to be nationally renowned. All of it.
Just that little small thing.
And then I go to sleep and get up and do it again. Yeah, he's amazing.
Amazing. Thanks for introducing him to us.
Absolutely. And thank you, Chris. I really love how you pull from the interviews. Like, you have such a unique way of processing it. It's really fun to talk to you about them.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad you like my brand of crazy.
All right, we'll see everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guest and host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content is provided for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to use their own judgment and seek appropriate professional support when needed. Oxygen for Educators, its host, and production partners are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast.